When shading with pencils, it's important to understand how different pencils and gradations can be applied to create a wide range of values. We are going to practice shading a cube or box and learn some art vocabulary. For this project, the supplies needed will be a 2B pencil, a 4B pencil, an eraser, a pencil sharpener, ruler, and paper. Throughout this tutorial, we will be writing our art vocabulary words on the left and right hand side of our drawing. Let's begin by drawing a square in the center of our page. When we begin to draw any form or object in art, we start by drawing the contour line of an object. Contour lines mean the outline of an object. We will need to first draw the contour of a square as a 2D shape and then add additional lines to create its 3D outline. To draw the contour line of a square, you will need to start by measuring out 4 equal sides. Measuring with a ruler helps for accuracy. My square has lines that are 2 inches. To make our square look like a box, we will need to extend out the sides of our box towards one angle.
To do that, I want you to imagine a line size roughly like this. Let's measure our line size to be 1 inch. I want you to imagine that that line is like on a computer screen, that it cannot shift or rotate. It can be picked up and placed where you need it, but that it has to stay the exact same length and not change its angle.
Pretend you are picking up that 1 inch line and keeping the exact same angle on every point on the right of your box and on the top left hand point of your box. Draw that exact 1 inch angled line. Notice how I'm not rotating or changing the angle of my ruler, because I want the angle to be the same on all 3 lines I am adding. Now all lines are done, but if you were to accidentally rotate your drawn line to either side of your box, it's going to look wonky and inaccurate. Once you have completed the 3 lines on each of the corners, you can take your ruler and connect the end points of each set of lines. This will give you the side of your box and the top of your box. Now we have a nice contour line of a box. Let's write the word contour box on our page. Before we go any further, we mustn't forget that we need to determine the light source within our space. A light source is anything that emits light. Some examples of light sources could be things like the sun, a light bulb, a flashlight, or a candle flame. The light source tells you where to draw the light values and shadows within a drawing. For this drawing, we're going to create 2 light sources.
The first light source I'm going to have set behind the box. I'm going to have a window.
My second light source will be a lamp hanging from the ceiling. It's hanging a little further away from the box. The box sits forward and the light from the back is higher up. Let's write light source on our paper. Let's explain the kind of light each light source gives. For our top light source, it is going to be the strongest light shining down onto our object. This would be a strong light source. I'm going to write very bright on my page. The light from the window is going to be a subtle light that just slowly creeps into the window as if it's like the morning dawn. This light is not very bright. Let's also draw another object in our room. Beside our box on the right-hand side, let's draw another rectangle and make it into a rectangular box. We're going to use the same principles we used when drawing our original box. Let's also add some water and a flower. We're going to make this a glass vase. Glass is very reflective for a material. We also can't forget to do our gradation value scale from dark to light. This is going to help us know what each value is. Let's start with M for our midtone. Because our box is not white, we're going to place a midtone on all parts of the surfaces that we see. Anytime we draw any object, if the object's not white, you should put a midtone. When you're shading in your midtone, make sure that it's smooth, blended nice and even throughout. Let's write midtone on the left-hand side of our page. Now let's figure out where our low tone is on our box. This area is always opposite the light source and is considered part of the shadow of an object. This will be on the darker part of our value scale. There's very little detail found in this tone. Let's mark the word low tone on our page. This will be the darker shaded area on the object. Our low tone area will not be anywhere where there is a light. So that means the front of our box and underneath the box. Let's write L for low tone and shade with our 4B pencil the front of our box in a nice darker shaded tone. Make sure your low tone value has the same consistency and pressure with no gaps. The entire side of the box will be covered. You want to work at adding that value so that you don't see different directions of your pencil lead. Now, because the light on the top is the brightest, it means the top of our box will carry the highlight. It is the brightest part because the light is really bright. So we're going to assume that the entire top of the box is lightened. Let's write the word highlight on our paper. You can take an eraser or a kneaded eraser to remove all the midtone value that you placed on the top. The reason why we want to erase it and not just keep it right off the bat is because we want it to look as though it once had a color or a value, and now because of the light, it is brighter, so the value is removed. Now on the right-hand side of our box, our midtone remains. This is because the light is still soft coming from the window, but it's not overly bright. Let's smudge it with our finger to make it look smooth. The next value we want to do on our piece is the cast shadow. When an object blocks a light source, it creates a shadow. A shadow is not a solid shape, but varies in tone and value. The farther a cast shadow is from the object, the lighter or softer the edges of the shadow are defined. Let's take a look at an image showing the examples of how cast shadows fall on a cube or a box. When light hits an edge or corner of a box, there is an invisible line where the light is able to stream from. The edges of a box or cube block light from reaching parts of its surface. Here are different positions of light sources and how they affect the cast shadow. When there are multiple light sources, multiple cast shadows can be seen. Sometimes the different intensities of light change a cast shadow's value or lighten it in areas where the light reaches. Let's write cast shadow on the bottom of our page. In our piece we have two light sources, the light that is coming from our window, that's a soft light, and the light from our lamp from above, shining a very strong light from the top. Let's follow the line of our light to see where the cast shadow will fall. Remember, the cast shadow always falls in the same direction as our light. The brighter light from the top will hit the top corner of our box. The light is not able to bend, so it will stream down. Because it's brightest, it will take away part of the first cast shadow that was created by our window light. Here is where the light will hit the corner of the box, flow down, and stop somewhere in front, right about here. Now choose a darker tone for your shadow. I'm going to choose an extremely dark tone using my 4B pencil, and I'm going to shade in that cast shadow. Remember, you can make it lighter in value if you want. It all depends on how bright your light source is, and so cast shadows can range in values of darkness and to mid-tone values. Let's take the time to draw arrows and mark where our vocabulary words are within our drawing. But let's not forget about a very important term called reflected light. Let's write reflected light on our paper. Reflected light will never be as bright as the highlight. It usually falls a little bit darker on the value scale after the highlight section. There will be light that hits our glass vase at different angles, and that light will bounce or refract in a new direction. This is where it would hit potentially on this glass object. The light bounces off of it and may hit parts of what we are drawing and create reflected light. Here would be a spot. You can take your eraser and erase where that reflected light would appear. Let's just label where the reflected light is on our drawing. Any shiny object can be drawn in the space. Here, if I drew a cup or a goblet that was made of porcelain, if the object was shiny enough, light could refract off of it. Let's imagine that the top light hits it at some point on that glass object and bounces and refracts onto the dark part of our square box. Let's remove some of that with our eraser to show where the reflected light is. This can be done with any objects in the space. Make sure your page is completely labeled so that you have it as a resource for drawing later. I hope you enjoyed my tutorial. Don't forget to click and subscribe to my channel.